tradition.
4 generations of our family has showed at the Nebraska State Fair. My grandparents would have showed back in the 1940s. My parents would have showed in the 1960s. I showed in the 80s, and my children are now showing in the 2000s.
My parents started showing at the Nebraska State Fair in the early 1960s. I started showing in the early 80s when I was about 4 years old, and today my youngest is starting to show as well.
My dad started showing here in the 1940s, and I started in 1979.
And I started showing in 2012.
My son Scott started showing at the State Fair in probably about the early 80s, and he's been to the State Fair every year since then. And his daughter Jackie now shows the State Fair, and this is about her last year.
I showed in the 60s, exhibited, and then my daughter in the 80s, and then I continued as either an FFA advisor or extension educator for about the last 47 years.
Well, I showed cattle here at the State Fair when it was in Lincoln, of course, in the 1960s, and my dad got me very interested because he showed at the State Fair in the 1930s.
Yeah, and then I showed at the State Fair in the 80s.
I started showing in 2008, and I started just because my older brothers both showed, so I've been in the show barn as long as I can remember.
My dad back in the 50s, I showed at State Fair in the 70s. Our daughter showed in the 90s, early 2000s, and now I have my granddaughters showing.
I started showing at the Nebraska State Fair in 1994.
I started showing in 2015.
Many things have changed since the very first Nebraska State Fair, but the recipe for success is still rooted in our youth.
To become a champion, it takes initiative,
Perseverance,
Early mornings.
late nights, sacrifice,
dedication,
courage, patience, passion,
Hard work, commitment,
Grit.
An entire year's worth of hard work comes down to this moment. This is The Final Drive.